Right now, we are joined via Skype from Great Britain. We have Rupert Isaacson from Horseback with us. Rupert, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on.
And I have to ask you first, before we do anything, for your permission for us to be broadcasting your image live and also recording it and to be talking to you. Do we have your permission?
You have my permission.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for joining us. You've just gotten off a plane. How long were you on the plane?
It was Texas to London, so it's a 10-hour flight. But
wow.
you know.
So you've got to be worn out at this point. But I thank you for taking the time to join us today. Tell us a little bit. Give us a little bit of background on what Horseback is and where you're mostly located.
Okay. Well, Horseback is a non-profit and a for-profit. It's got two wings. But basically, what we do is we provide services to autism families. I'm an autism dad myself, where we work with horses and nature in general and animals in day-long sessions, camps, and so forth to help get direct communication from the kids.
Wonderful.
That can be verbal or non-verbal, but it's about direct communication. The reason this evolved was that my son, I've always been a horse guy, always trained horses, and my son learned to speak, got his first expressive language on the back of a horse. And specifically not doing regular therapeutic riding in the saddle with me, sitting in front of me. And I realized after some years of doing this, and then doing it with other kids as well, that there was some science behind what was going on, that this rocking motion of the hips causes the body to be flooded with a feel-good hormone, that's oxytocin. And the constant finding and refinding of balance opens up the learning receptors of the brain. Normally that's a stress situation. You take out the stress, you replace it with bliss, and boom, you've got a kid who's in this optimal position to receive and retain information. So our foundation provides these services to families free of charge, and our for-profit trains people how to do it. We've been running camps, 3-day Horseback camps, for quite a while now in North America and Europe. But I had been reading a lot about the cognitive leaps that kids were making with surfing. And I was sort of looking for the right partnership. I thought, well, gosh, if I know what we can do with horses. What if we did a camp that was combining this with surfing? Might we really get this kind of amazing double whammy effect of completely blissed out kids with their learning receptors wide open and all their sensory stuff being calmed either by the rocking motion of the horse and the natural environments or by the ocean. So I finally managed to make contact with a really great pair of gentlemen, Rocky in Half Moon Bay in California, who runs the Half Moon Bay Surf Club there, and a guy called Captain Jack, or Surfer Jack from Indo Jacks in North Carolina, who's an old Half Moon Bay surfing guy who now runs his own surfing non-profit out in North Carolina. We put our heads together and we came up with a prototype camp where we camped in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and then we spent part of the day riding, part of the day in the ocean. We saw cognitive leaps that were frankly jaw-dropping, including in my own son too, and he's doing pretty well. I'm used to him doing well. He took an enormous leap forward, but there were some really quite severe kids who were just not the same child within 24 hours, and so I think we have to keep doing this.
I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it's just great. Tell us a little bit about the nuts and the bolts. When did it happen? How did you find the people who participated? How did they find you?
Okay. Well, like all these things, it happened organically through one connection to another. I spend a lot of time going around the country training people who run therapeutic riding barns how to work specifically with autism and how to train their horses to really optimize the work with autism. There's a woman in Half Moon Bay called Joelle Dunlap, and she runs an organization called Square Peg, the idea being that everybody fits. I've trained her. She's one of the places that Horseback has put the most training into in North America. It's right there in Half Moon Bay. So that's big surfing country. So naturally, I said to her, look, I've got this idea. Do you know anyone? She goes, well, of course I know people here. It's Half Moon Bay. So she brokered a meeting in the local Pete's Coffee with Rocky, who runs the Half Moon Bay Surf Club, and he said, "Yeah, I don't see why we shouldn't do this. I've got a great team of teen volunteers, but I also suggest you talk to Indo Jacks over in North Carolina, because they have been working with autism and surfing. Maybe we could get him to come back out here, and the three of us together could put this on." So we did it, 2 weeks ago now, and everything was put together organically. We liked, with all horseboy camps, we keep the numbers small, no more than 4 families. If you do it bigger than that, the effect can sometimes get a bit diluted. And I'd rather see lots and lots of little camps happen than camps with hundreds of kids. And because then sometimes inevitably people are going to fall through the cracks.
Right.
But the main thing for us is it's not just about the autistic child. I mean, I can go at length into what some of the cognitive leaps forward and direct communication and language and verbal skills and so on were that we saw. But before we get too down that road, I think that anyone who's an autism parent like me knows that it's not just about the kid on the spectrum. It's about the whole.
It is the whole.
In the horseboy method, the first person we start working on is usually not the kid. It's usually mum, because the kid arrives at our ranch, or a ranch that we trained, after 45 minutes to an hour on the car, and all they want to do is run around, get on the trampoline, play with the baby goats, chuck a ball for the dog, get on the swing, and unless they're telling us, "I want to get up on that horse right now," we're not even going to suggest that to them until they've been at our place for an hour or two. And they've assimilated. So what we'll usually do is we'll address mum first, because mum, let's talk about autism marriages. Her marriage is probably on the rocks. 80% of autism marriages break up. She's not sleeping. She's up to her elbows in poo. She's told what a terrible mother she is every time she goes to the supermarket, probably by total strangers. Probably her own mother, says to her, "Oh, if you were just stricter with him, he wouldn't do this." So she's completely isolated, and she's not, she's not sleeping, and she's feeling guilty about her other kids, that she's not giving them, the attention. And usually what we do is we start with her. And while her kid is going boing, 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 boing there on the trampoline, really happy, and her other kids are all over the climbing frame and maybe with one of our volunteers with a horse, I will put mum up on a horse static and let her just lie body to body, so that she can feel the sensory benefits that her child is going to get. And it also communicates to the kid that it's safe to get up there on that horse. Mum's up there. And once we've calmed her down that way, she gets her internal stims, if you like, start to calm down. We'll actually transfer her into, if she feels comfortable enough, into a room and lay her down on a daybed and say, "You take a nap, girl. You take a nap. We're good." And you can hear your kid is happy, and if he needs you, he's going to come running in here. You take. It's that kind of family care that we're also all about. And then if the sister comes out, and it's a girl 8 to 13 years old. Well, guess what her dream is? They're usually pony mad, but there's no money, and maybe they don't live somewhere with horses. Well, guess what? We can teach that girl to ride for free, by the way. Yeah. And because we don't charge for our day-to-day services.
Which is amazing, I have to say. That's absolutely amazing.
There's a brother who doesn't care from horses, but he's really into soccer, or he's really into martial arts. We will have a guy there, a really good soccer player, ready to play with him. I will bring in a martial arts black belt guy to do martial arts with him. You've got to address everybody's dream, you know what I mean? And suddenly the family dynamic around the autism starts to change. You instead of the kids feeling, "Oh, the doors to my dreams are being shut by my brother or my sister's autism," suddenly they're flying open because of the autism. Changes everything. And then we start the nuts and bolts of the actual horseboy method and the actual horseboy work with the spectrum kid that's come to us. But the camps, even more than the day-long sessions, allow us to really give an environment to a family where they can find this real sense of tribe and connect with other families, because autism parents always get their best information from other parents and seldom from professionals. We know this. They're not going to be judged. If their kid takes a poop under the tree, it's fine. The kid wants to take off all their clothes, it's fine. No, everybody knows the score. Everyone's watching out for the kid because everybody knows how to shadow, so they can actually start to relax a little bit. And then they can see that their other kids are happy. Who doesn't want to surf? Who doesn't want to get up on a horse? Who doesn't want to sword fight and play soccer? Come on, and go looking for mountain lion poo on the trails, you know. And so that's very much as what it's about. And the same with the surfing component. It's not just about getting in the water. It's also about spending a day at the beach.
Absolutely.
As a family. You know, with support.
Well, it sounds like an amazing, power-packed vacation that has huge, huge benefits for everybody in the family. But I go back to, how do you find the families? Because I know a lot of people watching are going to want to know, how can they be in line to be able to do this kind of thing?
Right. Easily. If they just go to our website, horseboyworld.com.
Okay.
Horseboyworld.com, and there's a camps section on there, and there's a contact email, which is info@horseboyworld.com. We're just at the stage of planning the next one. It'll be in North Carolina in October.
Okay.
And then once we've got the model up and running, I think we're just going to have these things running monthly. Bi-coastal, and gradually as we can train more and more people to do them, because they're not that hard to do.
Okay.
If you've got the good horse expertise and you've got the good surfing expertise, finding the right partners. But I suspect we're going to be running a lot of these. And the main thing is for autism families to remember that you really can get out of that prison. You know, it is very hard to think about going on vacations. And no, it's so stressful to go to a regular campsite or a regular hotel and deal with the stress of mitigating the autism around an environment that isn't set up for the success of the child.
Yeah.
But with these camps, the whole point is that it's all for them.
Yeah.
So there are no judgments. There are no, if your kid is screaming and melting down, it's all right. It's really okay. And the people who are there kind of know what to do, or what not to do.
Awesome.
So info@horseboyworld.com, if people just want to say, okay, I want to sign up for one of these in the coming year, just we'll start creating the email list and gradually work our way through it.
Okay. But your Horseboy is based out of Texas.
We are based out of Austin, Texas, but we operate all over the place. I mean, I'm talking to you from London right now. We have 4 or 5 stables in the UK we work through. We have stables in France and Italy we work through. Okay. We've got a number of stables around the USA and Canada.
Well, and I want to take a break, but when we come back, I want to talk about...
We also have a way of educating parents to talk to therapeutic riding barns about how they can improve their game a little bit with autism.
Oops, we've lost him. But you know what? I wanted to take a break anyway, but we're going to get Rupert back, and hopefully we're going to get Rocky on the phone. And I want for Rupert to tell you why he's in Great Britain, what he's getting ready to do with his son, because we got to speak briefly the other day. So we're going to take a break, and during this break, we're going to show the video that they sent us of the camp. So stay tuned. More with Rupert Isaacson when we come back, and hopefully Rocky Rayner, so stick with us.
C-15. Flying taxi, San Francisco events.
This week actually started probably about 1.5 years ago, and Rocky Rayner and I were talking about a way that we could use the expertise that Jack has, combining it with the surf team here in Half Moon Bay. So this week has really been quite a collaboration between the surf team, Indo-Jack Surf Charities, Square Pegs, and then the Horseboy Foundation. And being able to bring it all together in one place and try something new of combining the horse riding with the surfing has just been an incredible experience for all the people involved.
It's just too heavy for Superman to live.
We are in Half Moon Bay, California, and we're putting on a charity surf camp in conjunction with the Half Moon Bay Surf Club, with the Square Peg Foundation and the Horseboy, putting together kind of a new program using horses and surfing to connect with special needs kids, namely autism. And so Indo-Jack Surf Charities came out here to sort of run the surf portion of the program and to train the Half Moon Bay Surf Club to do this in the future on their own.
To see the autistic program come here to Half Moon Bay and to get these kids in the water and to get the surf club involved was just an amazing vibe at the beach.
I was so surprised we were able to get them all into wetsuits. That was just amazing, because that was the thing I thought we were going to have the most difficulty with. And then when they got in the wetsuits and they got on the water, it was easy. They just all wanted to surf.
So I'm Rupert Isaacson. I'm the founder and director of the Horseboy Foundation. And I work with autistic people and horses. We're doing our first horse and surf camp today. Over the next couple of days, and this is the first time I've ever gone surfing in my life, but I can really see why people have been using surfing as a therapy for autism. It's very, very, very similar to the effect of the horse. You've got this giant movement underneath you, you've got the magic of the living thing, either the horse or the ocean, you've got the sense of adventure, you have to get over a certain slight fear and discomfort, which then of course boosts your self-confidence. And I've been watching kids out there today who are struggling verbally, who are struggling sensorily. I can see that all the sensory stuff calms down because the movement of the ocean is very similar to the horse. And I've been seeing kids that are barely verbal, using complex language, really their intellect really coming to the fore, and all that white noise in the head and all that physical discomfort that a lot of them go through neurologically is being calmed down by the ocean in a very similar way to the way you find it with the horse. I totally see the benefits for kids. I'm an autism dad. My son had an amazing experience out there. He even had a wipeout and had a bad reaction, had to get over it and find his courage again and go out, and he did, and he feels fantastic about it.
The autistic kids, you think they can't do anything, but they were having loads of fun.
But you can't take it to the bank, and you can't take it back.
Using surfing on the surface with kids with physical and mental challenges might seem a little lightweight. You know, people might question, well, what are you doing? You're not curing anything, you're not fixing anything. But what I've learned, and what you'll all learn as you view this, is that there's an element of surfing that helps a child realize that getting knocked down, they can get back up. There's one email that came in this week, the day after we finished, and it was, this was the best day of his life. And if that was all we gave them, to give one child the best day of their life, that's worth it.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod, and we have via Skype once again Rupert Isaacson from Horseboy. We're having difficulty getting Rocky Rayner on the phone, but we're still working on it. We have not given up. He's from Half Moon Bay. You just watched a video about this amazing surf camp, and before we went to break, Rocky, I was saying that when we came back, I wanted to talk to you briefly about your son and why you are in Great Britain. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing there and what you're about to do.
Okay, well, I come here to do a couple of things. One is some trainings in Horseboy method, but also my son Rowan, who's now 10, who is autistic, has his own project, and it's called Endangerous, meaning an animal that is both endangered and dangerous. Mm-hmm. It's his word, and he's, you know, some of you may know that we made a film a few years ago about journey across Mongolia on horseback we did together. Well, now it's Rowan's turn. He's behind the camera as well as in front of it, and he wants to take us around the world, sort of falling in love with the planet, really, looking at these animals and the changing planet through his eyes, through the eyes of a special needs kid. And so we're off to Romania day after tomorrow for our first endangered safari, which is going to be European grizzlies, brown bears in the forests of Transylvania, up in Vampire Country near Castle Brun, which is where Vlad the Impaler lived. And we're going to go film these amazing animals. Rowan is going to film them. We will be filming Rowan filming them, and we will see where this goes. And we're starting it as a web-based television project, which will be going up starting in the fall, September, October, on its own site, endangeroussafaris.com, or people can find it through the horseboyworld.com site. And we're going to start with very short snips, and then gradually grow it, I think, into a proper TV show.
Wonderful.
And I think he's going to take us all over the world. And here's an interesting thing for me is everyone's got their own take on the reasons behind the current autism pandemic. But if, as Temple Grandin and many others say, it's because of a gene-environment interaction, i.e. the world is more toxic than it used to be, are we looking at true autism, or are we looking at, a neurological reaction to certain types of toxicity and so on that produce autism-like symptoms that also responds to, autism treatments? Then isn't it interesting if someone who's, if you like, a product or a victim of this changing planet is showing us this changing planet and sort of bringing us back to falling in love with our planet again, through and despite, these challenges which have impacted him and us so heavily. So for me, there's a real poetry to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plus, he's just taking us to see some really cool animals.
Absolutely.
I think for a lot of kids, who are used to seeing the sort of the kids' television type presenters are usually very, very precocious, neurotypical, highly articulate kids, like sort of, Bindio and the daughter of, Steve-O and the Crocodile Hunter and so on. I think people are not used to a sort of vulnerable special needs kid being the one who takes you into the jungle.
Yeah.
And what I know is it will start to change children's perceptions of special needs, because once kids start watching Endangerous, they will very quickly forget within 3 frames that Rowan is autistic, and they'll just be following him to see the lions or to see the bears, to see the elephants or whatever it is we're after. And suddenly they are viewing the sort of hero figure on the television is the weird kid at school. And I think there's a value in that.
I absolutely do too. How old is your son now?
He's 10 now.
Okay, so you're taking him into these places. I mean, my son's 9, and I'm that mom that you were describing earlier, that's stressed and hasn't had any sleep and all those things. So I hear this and I go, that sounds wonderful, but there is the big part of me that goes, you're going to take a 10-year-old into the forest and have him film bears, and isn't there like a danger aspect to this, Rupert?
Not really. I mean, there's probably the real danger is when we put our kids in these metal boxes on wheels, and then we go onto these things called freeways at 70 miles an hour in these metal boxes on wheels. And try to avoid colliding with each other, and we do that every day. Also, you have to remember, my family, I'm English, I live in Texas, but my family's African. I grew up going to and from Africa, and going into the bush, looking at big game was very much a part of my growing up, and it's what kids did. I mean, but you have mechanisms for making sure it's safe, and you do it through guides, and you do it in a very structured way. You don't just, wander up to a bear with a camera and say cheese,
All right.
Okay. So it's done with guides and so on. And also that's the thing is the guides are usually the communities that are living with these animals, and Rowan is taking us to meet these people as well as the animals around which they live. So it's going to be a fascinating project.
Okay, excited to hear it. And so it strikes, whenever I have the opportunity to talk to a dad, I have to ask, so your child, at what point did you realize that your child kind of worked on a different modality? When did you think that autism was coming? And what was your reaction as a dad who's, you know, you seem like a very go with the flow kind of person who's very in touch with themselves and in touch with the environment. What was it like for you to discover that your child was working on a different system?
Well, in a way, when we found it was autism, there was a sense of relief, because then at least I felt that even if I didn't know what I was working with, I could learn about what I was working with.
Right.
I knew from 18 months, we both did, and we knew earlier because, you know, he got quite a few words at a year and then they left him. And I'm married to a professor of psychology who knows what the miles at the University of Texas. She knows what the milestones are that a kid should hit, and she's like, man, he's not hitting them, you know. So we were pretty aware pretty early. For me, there was a grief, because I thought, I'm an obsessive horseman. You know, I have always been an obsessive horseman. I'm one of those people who I can be very boring about horses, and I can bore for England. You know, I could be on the English boring team when it comes to horses, and so first I thought I had to give horses up because I thought Rowan wasn't safe around them. And then when he found his own way to my neighbour's quarter-horse mare, Betsy, which kicked off the whole Horseboy story, and made his own connection with her, I thought, oh my gosh, he's got the same thing with horses that I do, but I'll never share it with him because it's autism. And luckily, I turned out to be completely wrong. And I think one of the things about growing up in the way that I did, partly South African, partly English, partly Jewish, partly this, partly that, never any one thing, was that I grew up in a real environment of questioning. And I'm a journalist by trade. It's my job to ask questions. So when I was getting the kind of, well, your life's all over and you're going to have to live according to a schedule on a fridge, and by the way, that'll cost you $100,000 a year that you haven't got, I remember thinking, where's the other 50% of the story here? This is way too extreme. I may not know what I'm dealing with yet, but I will learn. And of course, I found that really what Rowan's autism did, once I had gotten through that initial kind of, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? You know, the male, I must fix this thing. And then thinking, actually, hold on a second. This isn't a fix. This is a life. This is a way of being. I'm like, oh, okay, well, now that's interesting. Now, how do, you know, and look, he's sharing the horses. Oh, my gosh, now we're riding together and he's starting to speak in the saddle. Okay, the door is open. We can share this, father and son. And then I realized, of course, that what was happening is that my son was showing me a much, much, much better way to live. You know, suddenly I was out on horseback all the time with him. I was out riding the range in Texas with him. I was out adventuring with him, in a much, much more involved way than I probably would if he had been at, you know, mainstream school and so on and so on. And then when his school didn't work out, we are homeschoolers, and you could even say to some degree we're unschoolers. But we've evolved into that. I didn't get into that because I'm, you know, this particular kind of hippie dad with coming into it with these philosophies. I look like a hippie, but really I wear my hair. I never got over my, you know, it's terrible, my endless Peter Pan syndrome. And I know I'm not proud of it, and I don't have any much bone in my body, I can assure you. So the experience of finding, oh my gosh, all these doors are opening to a better life, to a closer life with my son, to a more interesting life. Hell, now we're going across Mongolia together.
Yes.
Who'd have thought? You know. So I very quickly started seeing the beauty of it, and there's another thing too, and I think a lot of parents have this experience, that it's like being in the presence of an enlightened master to be with an autistic child, because of their quiet ego. It seems to be there's many gifts of autism, and there's obviously intellectual gifts and so on in many cases, but this thing of the quiet ego, the neurotypical human is so beset by the ego and all its attendant mental problems, self-esteem going up and down all the time, and so on and so on, depression, elation, and this endless emotional roller coaster. These kids are born differently, and it's as if they had already spent 30 years doing that spiritual practice, and now we get to hang out with them. And so the question often in my mind, you know, whether it's my son or whether it's kids I work with at the Horseboy Foundation or on the camps, is I know I'm getting a break from my ego while I'm with them, because my mirror neurons in my own brain are not being fired at by, you know, another junior neurotypical human being with his ego or her ego firing. And no, I get a complete break from my ego because no one's pushing. So that's therapeutic. Should I be paying my son or these kids $100 an hour as therapists? Perhaps I should. Perhaps in future, well, because it's darn therapeutic. And I think, so back to the question, there was an initial grief shock fear, but relatively quickly there was well, you know, this is just interesting. And once you make friends with it in that way, get curious about it, I think the rest sort of follows. It's while one's resisting it and trying to fix it that one's going to be bashing one's head into that wall.
Well, it's certainly interesting to hear you talk and to hear about some of the different things. We've been trying to get Rocky on the phone, and so I think we'll probably do him on a different day and have him talk about the surf aspect of it. But I hear what you're trying to do, and I'm sure that it takes quite a bit of funding to be able to offer this to families. If there are people out there who are interested in what you're doing and would like to donate, what do they need to do?
That's very simple, and we love getting support. Obviously, that enables us to offer the services that we offer. All they have to do is go to our foundation website. We are a registered 501c3 non-profit. All donations are tax deductible. And here's the URL. It's Horseboy Foundation.
Okay.
Or one word, horseboyfoundation.org. Okay. If they go to horseboyfoundation.org and they go to the bit on the menu, there's a great big pink donate button. Click on that and you can do it online. And whether it's $1 or $1 million, it's that where it goes is to provide these services for the kids for free. We did this camp for free, for example.
Really amazing.
You know, so that enables the whole thing to happen.
Well, and something that we talk about a lot here is when something is, we use the word reinforcing, when something is really spectacular to a child, we're going to see quite a bit of progress. And we see frequently with animals, and we've seen in the surfing situation, that the kids, when we take them outside of other circumstances, they rise to the occasion. And you saw some tremendous progress from it was a 4-day camp?
Yeah, Three nights.
Three nights.
3 nights, 4 days, yeah.
And you saw some tremendous things that happened. Give us just a couple of quick examples of some of the things.
I'll give you a couple of examples. We had one child who was really timid and effectively nonverbal. Come out of his shell to the extent that he was verbally directly telling us what to do, to jump through this wave, now get on the board, do it again, want more, extraordinary.
Yeah.
Another kid who was just so wrapped up in anxious stims that you couldn't really reach him at all. And I think we've all been in that situation.
Yeah.
All of that stimming falling away.
Amazing.
And him coming forward and directly telling us with one-syllable commands what to do. My son Rowan had a massive wipeout on one of the boards, and after having a rather ecstatic time, and had a major regression on the beach. And I thought, oh my gosh, have I blown it now? He got through it, he got over it, he went back out. That evening, my son has many of the kids on the spectrum, he has his rituals. And one of his rituals is when he watches his video at 6 o'clock to 7:30, and the videos rotate. Right now it's Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
We love that. We're huge fans of Wallace and Gromit.
No one is allowed in the room. And he will kick you out, he will slam the door, he'll get very upset. No kids can come in. I was worried what he was going to do on this. He invited the other kids in the camp to come and watch the movie with him.
Wow, that's some social
then
progress.
Chatted
Well, that's wonderful. We're starting to lose you a little bit.
Extraordinary stuff. Like, this is not you. Why aren't you getting all freaked out and kicking us out and making a fuss? No, it didn't happen. So those sorts of things often happen on these camps, and you might go through a rocky first day when the kids are in a different environment, and we don't throw anything at them the first day. We just let them acclimatize. We have the horses are there ready if they want them, but we're not going to lay on. We mostly hang out.
Yeah.
And then by the time we're ready to go in the second day, the kids are comfortable and they don't feel rushed, and they've had a chance to check it out and do it in their own time. And that seems to be the key, to sort of do it at the kids' pace. Even if you get a bit worried sometimes if it's going to happen. But no major cognitive shifts like this. And then they seem to carry over, you know. We've had other examples. There's a certain type of sensory work we do with a static horse where we'll lay the child on body to body, like I was describing how we did it with the mother earlier. And that's in the Horseboy method. And we've had kids fall asleep up there.
Oh, wow.
And there was one kid on a camp who had been up there, who'd never slept for more than 3 hours in his life. And he fell asleep up there. We transferred him to a bed, and he slept for 14 hours.
Wow.
His sleep patterns were radically changed for good. We had another kid, you know, becoming verbal up there. So, I mean, these things are not unusual at these camps. Now, that said, you never promise miracles, but you are, at the very least, you're saying to parents, look, come and do something interesting as a family, out in nature together. Why not? Worst thing that can happen is nothing, right?
Right. Well, the worst thing that can happen is you can have some fun and have some time away.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a remarkable thing. And we're out of time, but Rupert, tell us again how we can get to the Horseboy website.
Okay, so the website is horseboyworld.com.
Okay.
That has the camp's information on it. And if people want to write and get more information, the email is info@horseboyworld.com.
Okay. And
if they would like to donate, and goodness knows we can use it, we have a foundation website for our 501c3 nonprofit, and that is horseboyfoundation.org, horseboyfoundation.org. Click on the big pink donate button.
Okay, great. And we'll have Rocky with us on another day. But Rupert, thank you so much for joining us after a long plane ride. We really appreciate it. And good luck to you as you guys move forward. I can't wait to see your son's documentary and see that he was safe, but that he saw the wild and dangerous and endangered animals. My son will look forward to seeing that as well.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. It was an honor.